Normally, I don't do part 2s, but because of the massive support you guys showed me in the last video, I've decided to make this video. This will be a part 2 to my video on what if the Tanzimat Reforms succeeded. The other videos scheduled for this date will be delayed to the 15th of December. Now, without any further ado, let's start the continuation to this scenario. As where we left off was in the 1900s. Here, the first Ottoman elections take place in 1902. The main parties partaking in it would be the Committee of Union and Progress, the CUP, the Private Enterprise and Decentralization Association, the Pt.2, and the Freedom and Accord Party, the FAP. There would also be several conservative, Islamist, and ethnic parties, but none of them would really rise to prominence. In the elections, the Pt.2 manages to win after gaining a narrow majority. Their leader, Mehmed Sahabuddin, who was also a member of the House of Osman, would come to power as the nation's new Grand Vizier. His tenure would last for 6 years. It would see the privatization of the Ottoman industries while cracking down on worker strikes in the major cities. While this would improve the economy, it would also reduce the rights of the working class, leading to them becoming more and more radical. His reign would also see more Turkish nationalistic policies, which would lead to riots in the Balkan provinces. One of these now infamous riots would be known as Black Spring. On the 30th of March 1907, a riot would erupt between the Turks and Bulgarians living in the city of Pleven. This riot would be broken up by the civilian police, but it would soon escalate following police brutality. A few Bulgarian secret societies would start an armed rebellion in the city's suburbs. This would be followed with the military being deployed in the city. The rebellion would be squashed, but the soldiers would also target civilians, leading to the deaths of over 400 people. This terrible incident would be condemned by the great powers, and the Ottoman government would arrest those involved. After this, in the 1908 elections, the CUP manages to win, as they start their gradual nationalization and soft Turkification of the provinces, with the goal of making a giant Turkish superstate. While in 1911, a scuffle would occur between Ottoman and Italian troops in Libya, which would cause relations between the two to sour, though no one would declare war yet. Though in 1912, unrest once again starts brewing in the Balkans. In the state of Pleven, attacks start on Ottoman soldiers by a Bulgarian secret society, known as the Bulgarian Secret Central Revolutionary Committee, or the BSCRC for short. Internally, the CUP would also see changes, as following his failure to deal with these attacks, the Grand Vizier Mahmud Şevket Pasha would be removed following a vote of no confidence against him. He would be replaced by Enver Pasha, who would come to power through some very dubious means. While following unrest in the city of Pleven, the Grand Vizier Enver Pasha would send the Crown Prince Shehzade Abdülkadir to Pleven to host a parade. On the 30th of March 1914, the Shehzade would arrive in the city as the parade starts, although it would be questioned by the press as it was hosted on the same day as the infamous Black Spring. Nonetheless, the parade continues. As the Shehzade meets with the common people, a man screams in the crowd, "Freedom to Bulgaria! Down with the Turkish oppression!" The man then shoots the Shehzade as he meets his end. Following this, Enver Pasha would crack down on the BSCRC and would discover that they were supported financially by Russia. The Ottoman Empire would confront the Russian Empire, but they would deny any involvement. Soon, Turkish nationalists, in a fit of rage, stormed the Russian embassy in Constantinople. Russia would be outraged by this, as it becomes an international crisis. Germany would add fuel to the fire, telling Russia that they would support them in whatever action they took. Following this declaration, on the 12th of September 1914, the Russian Empire declares war on the Ottoman Empire, starting the First World War. In the Caucasus, the Ottomans beat the Russians, while in the Balkans, Russia starts pushing into Romania. Britain and France join the war against Russia, so Germany declares war on France and sends its entire army to execute the Schlieffen Plan. Paris falls by the end of the year, but France moves its capital to Bordeaux and continues fighting the war from there, as British reinforcements soon arrive, stabilizing the front, as trench warfare soon sets in. In the Balkans, Germany manages to force Austria-Hungary to join in by offering them Bosnia and half of the Balkans. Austria-Hungary soon joins in, managing to take Herzegovina, but getting stuck in Belgrade and Sarajevo. As the new year starts, the Entente managed to get Japan on their side. Japan manages to easily take the German possessions in the Pacific, while also taking Vladivostok and pushing into Siberia. This forces Russia to send more forces east to stabilize the front, causing problems in the Balkans as they get stuck in Romania. Austria-Hungary also gets stuck, not being able to make any significant gains. The Entente and Holy League both try to get Italy on their side. The Holy League promised them Libya, Tunisia, Albania, the southern coast of Anatolia, Nice, and Savoy. The Entente promised them German colonies Istria, Tyrol, Trieste, Fiume, Dalmatia, and even a protectorate over Croatia. Eventually, Italy tells the Entente that they would join them, but they needed immediate compensation first in the form of Tunisia. Both France and the Ottomans would be outraged by this demand, but Britain would mediate things, promising the Ottomans whatever they wanted from Russia and Austria-Hungary. The Ottomans then transferred Tunisia to the Italians as they joined the war, forcing Austria-Hungary to send troops west to make sure things didn't get out of hand. By late 1915, the Ottomans captured Baku, taking its oil fields and pushing into Chechnya and Dagestan with the help of local resistance. The Holy League would lose an important asset as Germany sends a large number of forces east to stabilize the other fronts. Thanks to this new German aid, Austria-Hungary managed to take Bosnia and starts pushing into Serbia, but they've soon stopped as the front stabilizes. In the Balkans, Russia manages to take the city of Rus, securing a strategic point. As 1916 approaches, the Holy League makes a plan to knock the Ottomans out of the war by taking their capital, Constantinople. This would be done by sending German and Austro-Hungarian ships into the Danube and sailing into the Black Sea to meet up with the Russian Black Sea Fleet. In early 1916, this plan is executed with the navy of the Holy League soon meeting an unprepared Ottoman fleet in battle. In the naval battle of Odessa, the Holy League defeats the Ottomans and attempts a landing at Burgas. The Burgas landings, however, would be a massive failure as the Ottoman army, under the leadership of General Mustafa Kamal, would obliterate and capture the Russo-German army. This loss would demoralize the Russians, while it would boost Ottoman morale. In propaganda posters, this victory would be presented to be akin to that at Varna almost 500 years ago, when Sultan Murad II defeated the crusading army at Varna. Following this victory, with help from the British, the Ottomans would blockade the Russian Black Sea coast while doing 3 naval landings at Sevastopol, Rostov, and Odessa by the end of the year. As 1917 approaches, the Ottomans and British continue their pressure on the Russians, managing to capture the entire Black Sea coast and pushing more and more into Ukraine. While in Siberia, the Russian lines collapse as Japan pushes more and more into Siberia. The February Revolution soon takes place in Russia, as Tsar Nicholas II is forced to abdicate and is replaced with an interim republic. This republic continues the fight and are soon given some breathing room, as in the Balkan provinces, major revolts occur in Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania. Greece also joins in, with the aim of liberating the Greeks in the Ottoman Empire. This forces the Ottomans to send some troops back into the Balkans to deal with this, allowing Russia some breathing room. While in the west, at the crucial Battle of Orleans, the Ottomans managed to beat the German Empire as they advance into German-occupied lands and liberate them. While in the Baltic Sea, Britain also starts a blockade there, and by the end of the year makes 2 landings. In 1918, following various incidents in the Atlantic Ocean such as the sinking of the Lusitania and the Zimmermann telegram, the United States declared war on the Holy League, as American soldiers soon flood into Europe. The Ottomans by this time also managed to defeat the rebels, while Greece surrenders to avoid a harsh peace treaty. The Ottomans also slowly managed to beat back the Austrians out of their territory, causing the death blow to Austria-Hungary, resulting in their collapse. In propaganda posters, this victory would be celebrated as avenging the failed sieges of Vienna. In the east, the Russian Empire continues fighting, but soon the entire Ottoman army barrels down on them, capturing Kiev, while the British manage to capture Vilnius. This would force the Russians to surrender, as Germany is left alone. Soon the Germans lose the Battle of Paris, as the city is liberated from German hands. The German Empire soon surrenders, as the war ends on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Soon the peace treaties take place. The first power to be dealt with would be the Russian Empire. In the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, Russia loses Vladivostok and the surrounding regions to Japan. In the Caucasus, the Ottomans gain Armenia, Azerbaijan, Dagestan, and Chechnya. In Eastern Europe, they would also lose the Crimean Peninsula to the Ottomans. Finally, Russia would be forced to give independence to Poland, Lithuania, Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Belarus, and Turkestan. The second power to be punished would be Greece, though their punishment would kind of be seen as a win due to Wilson's 14 points. They would actually gain land in Epirus and Thessaly, even seeing the return of Corfu, though their catch would be that they'd have to pay war reparations and do a population exchange with the Ottomans. To say this would damage the Greek economy would be an understatement. Greece here by 1918 would have a population of about 2 million people, with 4 million Greeks living in the Ottoman Empire. Most of these Greeks would get deported, but a few communities would be allowed to reign in Macedonia and Constantinople. This would almost triple the Greek population, with their economy being kept alive by Britain. The 14 points would also see the Ottomans give autonomy to their subjects. Wilson wanted a more federal style, but this would be flat out refused by the Sultan and Enver Pasha. Eventually, they would agree to make autonomous zones for the Christian population of the empire. Bulgarian, Serbian, Romanian, Georgian, and Armenian zones are created, effectively undoing the Ottomanization in these regions. But back to the Treaty of Saint-Germain-en-Laye would see Austria losing the same land they lost in our timeline, while Hungary would not be dealt as light of a hand. In the Treaty of Trianon, Hungary would lose Transylvania to Ottoman Romania, Vojvodina to Ottoman Serbia, Dalmatia, and Fiume to Italy, while Croatia would become an Italian protectorate. Slovakia would be lost to Czechoslovakia. Finally, Germany would be dealt with in the Treaty of Versailles. The treaty would be the same as in our timeline. The war would end, and soon elections take place in the Ottoman Empire. Being credited for victory in the First World War, Enver Pasha once again becomes the Grand Vizier. Also, during this time, the autocratic and conservative Abdulhamid II meets his end. He would be replaced by his nephew Shahzade Umar Hilmi, who would become Sultan Umar I. He would be a quiet individual, leaving most of the affairs of ruling to the Grand Vizier, that being Enver Pasha. Enver Pasha here would become increasingly paranoid. Before the elections, he left the CUP and created his own party known as the Ottoman Grey Wolves, or OGW. Enver's second reign would see him attempt a gradual Turkification and soft nationalization of the Ottoman Empire, while also calling for the integration of Turkestan and Iranian Azerbaijan into the empire. This would cause discontent among the non-Turks living in the empire, and soon Enver's madness would come to bite him. In 1921, following a border conflict at the Ottoman-Iranian border, Enver Pasha declares war on Iran. What was meant to be an easy war soon becomes a war of attrition, as Enver's incompetency resulted in the Ottoman army getting stuck. Here, the hero of Burgas, Mustafa Kamal, calls out Enver, who attempts to arrest him, but the populace defends Kamal as he simultaneously breaks the deadlock with Iran, reaching Tehran by the end of 1922. In 1923, Iran surrenders. The peace deal would see the Ottomans take Iranian Azerbaijan, and they'd also attempt to take Khuzestan, but Britain would mediate the peace deal. Victory over Iran would be credited to one man and one man alone, that being Mustafa Kamal. Following this, Kamal would join the CUP, quickly becoming its leader and running as a candidate in the 1924 elections. He manages to win the elections in a landslide. Kamal's reign would start with discovery of oil in Libya and Mosul. This, along with oil from Baku, would make the Ottomans have a monopoly over oil, as Europeans give them the nickname the Empire of Oil. All this oil money would be used in strengthening the economy as it continues to skyrocket, becoming the fourth largest economy by 1927. Kamal would also oversee further secularization and Ottomanization. In a famous speech in Alexandria, he addresses representatives of various peoples in the empire. Fellow countrymen, today we stand at the cusp of greatness. Our great empire is the envy of the world, but with our strength there is also division. Our enemies try to exploit this by turning us against each other. I say no more. No more shall we squabble over who is better. Arabs, Turks, Armenians, Greeks, Kurds, Azeris, Bulgarians, Egyptians, Berbers, Slavs, we are all the same, the subjects of one empire and one nation. Kamal's reign would be a short-lived revival of the Ottoman Golden Age, but would not last long, as in 1929 the Wall Street crash occurs, leading to the Great Depression as the world economy goes into recession. The effects caused by the Great Depression would be massive here. As an example, say you are a young man during this time. Because of the crisis, you alongside many others lose your job. Now you and your family rely on soup kitchens for food for a few years. This was the reality for many, as in 1929 and 1930, about 25 to 30% of the American population lost their jobs. We would see similar numbers everywhere. In the Ottoman Empire, Unemployment and economic stagnation would see the rise of communist and ultranationalist factions, but none of them would come to power as Kamal once again becomes a Grand Vizier following the 1930 elections. His second reign would be focused on rebuilding and reviving the Ottoman economy, which starts improving after 1932, partly thanks to the oil money. 1932 would also see an incident in Ottoman Tripolitania. On the Ottoman-Italian border, a riot occurs between Ottoman and Italian soldiers, which leads to the death of over 40 soldiers. This further sours Ottoman-Italian relations, as now Italy publicly starts claiming Ottoman lands in an idea known as the Mare Nostrum. The following year, 1933, would be dubbed the Year of Fascism. On the 30th of January 1933, the funny mustache man comes to power in Germany, while on the 12th of June the same year, the All-Russia Fascist Party comes to power in Russia. Its leader, Konstantin Rodzewski, comes to power and declares himself the Vozhd of Russia, meaning leader of Russia. While in the end of the year, Greece would also see elections, where after years of economic stagnation and unrest, the Greek National Socialist Party comes out on top. They would promise economic revival, the improvement of the lives of the average citizen, and most importantly, the fulfillment of the Megalia Dea. The future looks uncertain for the Ottoman Empire and the world as a whole. Only time would tell whether it all explodes into another great war. But this is where I'll end the scenario. If you want me to continue it, please say so. If you have any complaints, leave them in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe and share your opinions. But for now, this was Alternate History Chronicles, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.